Well, we'll take up today the very first experience that Savitri has after that experience of realizing her soul. So this is a record of what happens once one has realized one's psychic being or the soul. So as we read last time, that after this great adventure of the journey towards her soul, Savitri, as is written here, once more she was human upon earthly soil in the muttering night amid the rain-swept woods and the rude cottage where she sat in trance. So she comes back to her outer consciousness and she's quiet, of course. But then slowly an experience takes her over. That is the experience of the opening of the centers. And as such, most of you must have read about the centers, the chakras as we say. So we will run through the description of the opening of the chakras, and then we will see what Sri Aurobindo has to say about it and what the mother comments about them. So we read, I think last time somewhere, a silent flame-eyed mass of living force, that was the full stop there. All underwent a high celestial change, breaking the black inconscience blind mute to wall, effacing the circles of the ignorance, powers and divinities burst flaming forth, each part of the being trembling with delight, lay overwhelmed with tides of happiness, and saw her hand in every circumstance, and felt her touch in every limb and cell. So there is, as we have been given here, the mighty mother, the descent of the mighty mother, the energy, the force that descends in her. And what is the consequence of this descent? Here begins the description of the opening of the centers. In the country of the lotus of the head, which thinking mind has made its busy space. Obviously, you understand this chakra is the Sahasrara, the 1,000-petal lotus. But see the description that in each one of them, the Sri Aurobindo uses a different adjective. In the country, it says it's a different noun. It says it's a country of the lotus. Then it says, in the castle of the lotus, twixt their brows, whence it shoots the arrows of its sight and will. In the passage of the lotus of the throat, where speech must rise and the expressing mind, and the heart's impulse run towards word and fact, a glad uplift and a new working came. So he just doesn't say in the lotus of the head or the lotus of the brows. He's using a noun very descriptive, as very suggestive in the sense, to express the idea of the vastness of the 1,000-petal lotus. He calls it the country of the lotus of the head. And then about the lotus at the center, the chakra in between the eyes, he calls it the castle of the lotus twixt the brows, whence it shoots the arrows of its sight and will. And then of course there's a passage that is the Visuddha chakra. The eyebrow between the eyes is the Ajna chakra, the top one is the Sahasrara. So we have these three chakras opening up. The immortal thoughts displaced our bound view. The immortal thoughts, earth, drab, idea and sense. It's the same verb actually which has been skipped in the second part. That means the immortal thoughts displaced earth's drab idea and sense is the same verb there. All things now bore a deeper, heavenlier sense. A glad, clear harmony marked their truth's outline, reset the balance and measures of the world. Each shape showed its occult design, unveiled God's meaning in it for which it was made, and the vivid splendor of his artist's thought. You see, he has clubbed these three together, the Sahasrara, the Ajna and the Visuddha, the one on top of the head, between the eyes, eyebrows and the throat. Because these are basically centers of thought. These are centers of thought which really deal with the thought waves. Of course, I'll read out those later. And what's happening? So he's describing here the immortal thoughts displaced our bounded view. There's a largeness, there's an enlargement, there is a kind of an openness of thought. So there is this thoughts of the earth's drab idea and sense, they get enlarged, they get opened up. And there is a glad, clear harmony mark their truth's outline. There is no more that frustrating, depressing ideas, but there's a sense of harmony in all thoughts. And then a channel of the mighty mother's choice, the immortal's will, took into its calm control our blind or erring government of life, a loose republic once of wants and needs, then bowed to the uncertain sovereign mind. Life now obeyed to a diviner rule, and every act became an act of God. See, this is the change that comes in once the psychic is connected. We have often heard of the word governed by the psychic. So what is the meaning of this governed by the psychic? How does the psychic being govern our day-to-day acts? So this is the manner it does so. The psychic being acts to the centers, acts to the chakras. And these chakras cover our entire being of thought, of feelings, of energies, of lower emotions. All the points of our energy, of our body, in fact, all the organs of our body, all of them are covered by these chakras. So it's kind of infusing the psychic energy into each of the chakras itself means the psychic being is getting control of the different centers of energy, different activities, different organs even. So that is the occult manner in which the psychic being starts controlling, starts governing, starts affecting. To the extent you see the last brilliant line, and every act became an act of God. So here there's no disharmony, no violence, no problems. This is the act of God is because the psychic is acting through all the centers. Now you see the other centers. In the kingdom of the lotus of the heart, love, chanting its pure hymeneal hymn, made life and body mirrors of sacred joy, and all the emotions gave themselves to God. You see how it acts to the heart center? Of course, as a couple of you who were there in the Gita conference yesterday or the last 3 days, we do not get this secret or this process of how to turn. Sri Krishna has described a lot about Bhakti Yoga, how to turn our devotion to the divine. But here Sri Aurobindo is giving us the practical methodology. You see, it's very clear now. It's not just a question of singing praise of the Lord and singing or going to the temple or the church. It is something that has to come from within, that the psychic being, if it is open, then it starts acting in our heart center. And the psychic's impact on the heart center itself makes what? This heart center? All emotions gave themselves to God. So automatically our devotion to the Lord increases, we begin to see the divinity in all things and in all creatures. So that's how our devotion to the divine increases after the psychic contact. And now you see the next one. In the navel lotus's broad imperial range, its proud ambitions and its master lusts were tamed into instruments of a great calm sway to do a work of God on earthly soil. This is a brilliant, beautiful thing, you see, how again the same psychic energy utilizes the navel lotus, the Manipura chakra, the Nabhi Padma or the Manipura chakra. What's happening? It infuses its light and consciousness into this Padma, Nabhi Padma. And what is the result? That the vital is tamed. It's a beautiful word. Otherwise the vital is always violent, it wants to be rajasic, it wants to really all the time over-express it. But here, wherever we have seen in the Gita also and in Sri Aurobindo too, we see it's not that the vital is energetic, means it should be bursting with action and energy and jumping around. What can best be done is that the vital is calm. So what happens when the vital is a great calm sway? It is under the sway of the sattva. So that means it's guided by sattva, the knowledge, the intelligence, and it supplies the energy. If it's just pure energy without sattva, then it could be detrimental. So this is what happens, and then our work for God on earthly soil becomes meaningful. Then there's the sixth one. In the narrow nether center's petty parts, Swadhisthana, our abdominal lotus, below navel, in the narrow nether center's petty parts, his childish game of daily dwarf desires was changed into a sweet and boisterous play, a romp of little gods with life and time. So what incredible changes come in. This is the real change of nature, as we say. That the dwarf desire, that the petty desires, they change into a sweetness and a boisterous play, like the little gods with life in time. There's nothing detrimental, nothing desireful, there's nothing that really disturbs. And then the seventh one, in the deep place where once the serpent slept, of course that's the Muladhara, you can see the word serpent. In the deep place where once the serpent slept, there came a grip on matter's giant powers, for large utilities in life's little space. A firm ground was made for heaven's descending might. So this is the most important one, the most powerful one, because this is the seat of the power over matter, the physical energy. So this Mooladhara, or the serpent power, is ultimately, if it is used for the physical transformation, control over the physical. So you see, these are the 7 chakras that have been awakened in Savitri. But we have to be a little careful. Has she transformed? Has she been transformed herself? Or is it the very first impact? See, we want to know how do we get governed by the psychic. So this is the governance by the psychic. So imagine the individual, in one word, I would use the best sentence here, every act became an act of God. So that means an act of God, your consciousness, your work, your offering, your thoughts, your feelings, everything is God-oriented, and yet your actions are there, very, very positive. It's not that you are retired or you have got an ascetic withdrawal, no. It's there a firm ground was made for heaven's descending might. Behind all reigned her sovereign deathless soul. Casting aside its veil of ignorance, allied to gods and cosmic beings and powers, it built the harmony of its human state. Surrendered into the great World Mother's hands, only she obeyed her soul's supreme behest in the enigma of the inconscious world. Now Savitri, with all this, with the psychic opening, the opening of the chakras, now she has surrendered into the World Mother's hands and follows only her behest. A secret soul behind, supporting all, is master and witness of our ignorant life, admits the person's look and nature's role. But this is actually what we are discussing in our class of the Gita. The secret soul behind is the Sakshi Purusha, or the witness Purusha of the Sankhya philosophy. So that's what Shri is describing here. Is master and witness of our ignorant life, of the activities of Prakriti. But once the hidden doors are flung apart, then the veiled king steps out in nature's front. A light comes down into the ignorance. Its heavy, painful knot loosens its grasp. The mind becomes a mastered instrument, and life a hue and figure of the soul. See, this is really what we said was the difference between Sankhya Yoga, Gita and Sri Aurobindo. The Sankhya Yoga also tells us about the witness Purusha. But then in Sri Aurobindo we see that this Purusha comes forward, takes over Prakriti. It is not saying, Prakriti, you stop your game and I am withdrawn from the world. That's what the Sankhya had said. But here in Sri Aurobindo, the Purusha who has been a witness till now, he takes over. Takes over means, as we said, takes over through the corridor, through the exit, through the control channels of the chakras. So once that happens, what happens here? Once the hidden doors are flung apart, means each of the chakras are opened up, then the veiled king is the Purusha. The veiled king steps out in nature's front. And then once it takes over nature and Prakriti, there's a tremendous change that comes in. A light comes down into the ignorance, its heavy, painful knot loosens its grasp. Then ignorance also gives up its grasp and grip over the human being, and then we see the transformation. The mind becomes a mastered instrument, and life a hue and figure of the soul. All happy grows towards knowledge and towards bliss. So this is really the life of the yogi, I suppose. All happy grows towards knowledge and towards bliss. A divine quiescence then takes nature's place. This is the real psychic governance, if I can describe. and pushes the movements of our body and mind, possessor of our passionate hopes and dreams, the beloved despot of our thoughts and acts. She streams into us with her unbound force, into mortal limbs, the immortal's rapture and power. This divine quiescence, this power, the Chit Shakti, from the psychic being's control, he's telling us that this is the control of the higher energy of the Chit Shakti itself, and which really pushes the movements of our body, mind, pushes in the sense of taking control, and possessor of our passionate hopes and dreams, the beloved despot of our thoughts and acts. So now slowly we see, I would not use the word divinization yet, it is psychicization. What we said, see sure below. First the psychic contact, and next is the psychicization. Or the other word we said is governance by the psychic being, or Sri uses the word psychicization. So this is the psychicization that's taking place. She streams into us with her unbound force, into mortal limbs, the immortal's rapture and power. An inner law of beauty shapes our lives. Our words become the natural speech of truth. Each thought is a ripple on a sea of light. What must be the state of the consciousness where each word becomes the natural speech of truth and each thought is a ripple on a sea of light. Then sin and virtue leave the cosmic lists. They struggle no more in our delivered hearts. Our acts chime with God's simple natural good, or serve the rule of a supernal right. You see how we get in tune with this universal consciousness, and all this question, because we are on the cosmic consciousness, all the mind-made things of sin and virtue have no place there, because our acts are in resonance, are in tune with God's simple natural good, or serve the rule of a supernal right. Right is that rhythm, the universal Satyam Rhythm Brihat. So we are in tune with the consciousness of the universal divinity. So all these mind-made questions of virtue, morality, what to do, what not to do, like you said yesterday, the Arjuna's despondency, it doesn't come in at all. All moods unlovely, evil and untrue forsake their stations in fierce disarray and hide their shame in the subconscious dust. Then lift the mind a cry of victory. See how we go above the normal human consciousness, where the mind is in conflict, brings in disharmony, brings in disarray. All that's lost, all that's forsaken the stations in fierce disarray. You see, all that is ugly and evil and untrue and incompatible, all these things leave us once we are in tune with the psychic being. And they hide their shame in the subconscious dust. It is as if they sink into the subconscious and hide themselves there, because they have no more any role, they cannot touch us, they cannot really influence us. And with that there is a beautiful victory. When the mind says, "O soul, my soul, we have created heaven. Within we have found the kingdom here of God. His fortress built in a loud, ignorant world. Our life is entrenched between two rivers of light. We have turned space into a gulf of peace and made the body a capital of bliss." Beautiful line there. So that's the ultimate victory there, that with this transformation we see our life is entrenched between two rivers of light. And this rivers is, one is the universal light and the other is the light of the soul. So we are now, Sabine, Savitri is now on the verge of moving into the universal. She has had the experience of the psychicization and now she is on to move to the next level. Because as we know in Sri Aurobindo's psychicization is only the first step of transformation. So that is the first step taken. And so now she is moving into the higher space, and the lovely line here turns space into a gulf of peace. That the whole of the space, the universal space, is full of peace, and the body itself is the head. Or, capital, kaput means is the head. Of course, the capital is also a temple of Jupiter at Rome. But here, in this sense of the meaning here, we see it is the seat of bliss. What more? What more? If more must still be done. But Savitri is kind of declaring, but it's too soon she has declared, because there's a lot more, I would say, Sri Aurobindo describes it. There's a lot more that still must be done. In the so slow process of the evolving spirit, in the brief stadium or state between a death and birth, a first perfection state is reached at last. This is the most important line that we understand. Very clearly says, a first perfection state is reached at last. So now Savitri has gone through the process of psychic realization, meeting with the soul, change of the chakras, the impact on the outer being, but it's only the first stage, the psychicization. So there is now the second one, the second stage of the spiritualization or the universalization, which will come in the second next canto, canto 6, where we see the question of nirvana and the discovery of the all-negating absolute, where we see Savitri plunging herself into a universal consciousness. So here Sri Aurobindo has left a beautiful guideline for us, saying that this is only a first perfection stage. Out of the wood and stone of our nature's stuff, a temple is shaped where the high gods could live. This is the transformation that comes into Savitri. Normally we see our body is nothing but a wood and stone of our nature's stuff. Now this very body has become a temple for the high gods to live. Even if the struggling world is left outside, one man's perfection still can save the world. There is one, a new proximity to the skies, a first betrothal of the earth to heaven, a deep concordat between truth and life. A camp of God is pitched in human time. Of course, you must have heard of this line many, many times. One man's perfection still can save the world. This, I would say, is quite the essence of the philosophy of Sri Aurobindo and the Mother. And that is the belief, that is the raison d'etre, why they started working on the physical transformation. Because as the Mother herself explained, even if one body gets transformed, then it becomes a possibility for the earth consciousness to get transformed. Even if one perfection is achieved, then becomes a window open to the human consciousness. So because as we said earlier, nature needs one module, one sample. That is this feasible or is it only an ideology? So Sri Aurobindo and the Mother, they tried to become that first module to place in front of nature and say, look, it can be done, it has been done. Now you take your time, but you have something to imitate, you have something to go by. So it is that struggle for which Sri Aurobindo says, one man's perfection still can save the world. And that is what Savitri has done. Of course, it's not yet the full perfection, but she's moving toward that. The first step is taken. at least with that first step, a cap of God is pitched in human time. The psychicization is itself a camp of God, that means God has descended into our own body. He has camped himself there. He is not yet a transformed body, but he has camped himself. So that is the finale of the first experience. I'd like to take you not fully into another description, but as I am at it, to make a reference to another passage in the same book 7, canto 6. There's a passage after a couple of pages. The para begins with "Thus spoke the mighty and uplifting voice." If you can find that, yeah. "Thus spoke the mighty and uplifting voice." Anybody please? Yeah, 539. Yeah, it may be 38. Return to 39. There is again a reference to the chakras here. There is again an impact. Each chakra is opening up. But I was wondering, why is it that Sri Aurobindo has described once again the opening of the chakras right in the next canto, the same book. So there is not a repetition, but these chakras are seen to be opening under a different impact. So we will take it up once we are there, but what's more important is in book 10, canto 4, for the end, the dream twilight of the earthly real. In my edition, the page is almost toward the end of the canto. It is page number 746. If you have anywhere, just look up in book 10, canto 4, right toward the last end of the canto, a para beginning with "And Savitri looked on death and answered not." Did anyone find the page? Can you hear the page? 664. 664. In this passage, this book 10 is basically the dialogue between Savitri and Satyavama and Lord of Death. And then Death challenges her and says, "If you really are the Supreme Mother, show me your face." Then he says, "Or if the mighty Mother is with thee, show me her face that I may worship her. Let deathless eyes look into the eyes of death, an imperishable force touching brute things, transform earth, death into immortal life," etc. And then the beautiful line from where I want to start are these: "In a flaming moment of apocalypse, the incarnation thrust aside its veil." It's just down the paragraph, maybe 7-8 lines after the new para. And Savitri looked on death and answered not. Just continue, about 8th or 9th line. "The incarnation thrust aside its veil." Found that page? Yeah. Now there, a little figure in infinity yet stood and seemed the eternal's very house, as if the world's center was her very soul, and all wide space was but its outer row. Then we see down the line here, a curve of the calm author of far heaven, descending into earth's humility, her forehead span vaulted the omniscient's gaze. Her eyes were two stars that watched the universe. The power that from her being's summits reigned, the present chambered in lotus secrecy, came down and held the center in her brow. You see, her being's summit is the Sahasrara, came down and held the center in her brow is the Ajna Chakra, the one in between the brows, where the mind's Lord in his control room sits. There, throned on concentration's native seat, he opens that third mysterious eye in man, the third eye, the unseen's eye that looks at the unseen, when light with a golden ecstasy fills his brain, and the Eternal's wisdom drives his choice, and eternal will seizes the mortal's will. Now comes the fourth one, the Vishuddha. It stirred the lotus of her throat of song, and in her speech throbbed the immortal world. Her life sounded with the steps of the world's soul, moving in harmony with the cosmic thought. As glides God's Son into the mystic cave, where hides his light from the pursuing gods, it glided into the lotus of the heart. You see, now this is the heart center, the Anat, as we said, and woke in it the force that alters fate. It poured into navel's lotus depth. Again there is this Manipura. Lodged in the little life nature's narrow home, on the body's longings grew heaven rapture's flower, and made desire a pure celestial flame, broke into the cave where coiled world energy sleeps, the Muladhara, and smote the thousand-hooded serpent force. That blazing towered and clasped the world's self above, joined matter's dumbness into the spirit's hush, and filled earth's acts with the spirit's silent power. Thus changed, she waited for the word to speak. Eternity looked into the eyes of death, and darkness saw God's living reality. See, there's three times, at least twice, there's a description of the opening of these chakras. But it is a different thing. First time what we have seen in Book 7, Canto 5, is the opening of the cantos, opening of the chakras as a sadhika. She is doing yoga now, she is doing tapasya. So as part of our tapasya, the chakras have been opened. So it is a process of transformation. But in the end, in Book 10, when we see the chakras opening, it is not the process of opening. As Srivamsa says, the incarnation thrust aside a veil. It is that Savitri now has the power to unveil herself and show her divinity. Well, when I was reading this afternoon, I remember what we did in our Gita's conference, the Vishwarupa Darshan. When Sri Krishna unveils himself and he shows himself saying, look, this is me. It's exactly the same description. A little figure in infinity, yet stood and seeing the Eternal's very house. As in the world's center was her very soul, and all wide space was but its outer robe. It's exactly the same thing that we see in the Vishwarupa and the cosmic darshan for Arjuna. So it is that divinity which is revealing itself behind the fact of Savitri. And that's what we saw in the Gita. So there is a semblance here, a similarity of the cosmicity, cosmic darshan. But why did Savitri do that? Of course we know that, and when we come to that maybe we'll deal it in detail. But she had to become her transcendental self. You see, it's not a simple Savitri. Like Sri Krishna had to show himself his cosmic form in order to really convince Arjuna. Here too, the mother, the Savitri, had to take on her transcendental form. You see, and stood seeing the Eternal's very house, the little figure of Savitri. She seemed the center of the Eternal's house. That means that transcendental rupa, that transcendental form. Because only then eternity looked into the eyes of death and darkness saw God's living reality. I hail thee, almighty and victorious death, thou grandiose darkness of the infinite. O void that makest room for all to be, hunger that gnawest at the universe, consuming the cold remnants of the suns, and eatest the whole world with thy jaws of fire. So now she is describing, but then ultimately what does she say? Thou art my shadow and my instrument. I have given thee thy awful shape of dread, and thy sharp sword of terror and grief and pain, to force the soul of man to struggle for light on the brevity of his half-conscious days. Thou art his spur to greatness in his works, the whip to his yearning for eternal bliss, his poignant need of immortality. Live, death, a while, be still my instrument. Who can say that my? Savitri alone cannot say my. Savitri, the transcendental form, the transcendental consciousness, who said that I have given you the form, thou guardian darkness, I have done that whole thing. So you are my instruments. So this is the finale, the cosmicity, where the universal cosmic depth sees the transcendental divinity of Savitri. So this here, although the chakras are described, what is important is that Shivananda describes the opening of the chakras here, which is not described in the Gita. As I said, the concept of the chakras is not there, but it comes in later here in Shivananda. So each of these chakras are the powers are pouring forth of the mind, of the brain, of the heart, of the navel. All these centers are at their full blast as well. And that is when she conquers death. But here there is one very interesting conversation, this question of the chakras. When we say that all of these are come into their full bloom and blast. Here I have something from the mother. Very interesting conversation. You see, some of you may not know the importance of these chakras. It's not just an Indian concept and so Indian yoga. Is it really required? Or how is it related to Sri Aurobindo's integral yoga? It's not just a description of Savitri and the Gita and not even the Gita, Indian yoga per se. But we should realize that the chakras play the most important part in the transformative yoga. You see, this is where many of us do not understand that we think of the cellular transformation. We think that the cells will burst with subliminal force, cells will become golden, and the whole body will become a golden body. But then the mother clarifies that that step of the external, the outer transformation comes much later. You see, there are stages in this transformation. First is the transformation or the change of the organs of the body. Imagine, you see, science is giving us a great amount of medicine, all that the research into the body's longevity, disease and genetics and all that, and telling us that you can have a new genetic science where you can prolong your life, you can make your body free of disease, etc. But what the mother says is that you may have a body with all these things, but in the process of transformation, how does it act actually? What is the procedure? Is it only a body which can prolong its life, its longevity, which science is trying to give us? He says no. Body may live 300 years, 500 years, 1000 years, but it's still the human body. A perfected body, a long body, a diseaseless body, a happy body, a comfortable body, a healthy body, blah blah blah. But they are not interested in a kind of a deathless body or a body that can survive hundreds of years. So he says, no, we have to change the very structure and content of the body. And what is the main content of the body? Are its organs. Wrapped into organs. We have the stomach and the heart and intestine and etc. etc. So the thing is, how do we, today if some part is wrong, a heart transplantation, liver transplantation, kidney transplantation, you just change one transplant one with the other. But the mother and Sri Aurobindo are not interested in this transplantation of the organs. They want to transplant not organ by organ, but organ by the center, by one chakra. Because each of these chakras has been given the function of controlling certain organs in our body. At present they don't, because they are not yet been enthused to do that. At present we function with the organs, with our medication, with our exercises, with our this and this. But in the future they say, the organs have to be changed, transplanted. And when the transplantation takes place, say for example the heart chakra. The heart chakra has to replace the heart. So that means it has to take over the functioning of the heart itself. The heart is pumping the blood, taking the oxygen to all parts of our body, giving us the energy. Now the heart chakra does the same thing. But then you'll see, I have little time there, let me read out from the mother. This is from Mother's volume number 5, page 59. So mother once in a conversation she says, this transformation, it takes a terribly long time. Sri Aurobindo said, one day I asked him, how long will it take to transform the body? He did not hesitate. He said, something like 300 years. Then the disciple says, 300 years from when? 300 years from the time one has the consciousness I was just speaking about. No, the conclusion, what you must succeed in doing is to be able to prolong life at will, not to leave the body until one wants to. That is one thing where science can help us. So if one has resolved to transform the body, well, one must wait with all the necessary patience, 300 years, 500 years, 1000 years, it does not matter. The time needed for the change. As for me, I see that 300 years is a minimum. To tell you the truth, with the experience I have of things, I think it's truly a minimum. Just imagine, you have never thought about what it means, have you? How is your body built? In a purely animal way, with all the organs and all the functions. You are absolutely dependent. If your heart stops for even the thousandth part of a second, you are gone and that's the end. The whole thing works and works automatically without your conscious will. Happily for you. For if you had to supervise the functioning, it should have gone the wrong way long ago. All that is there. Everything is necessary because it was organized in that manner. You cannot do without an organ, at least totally. There must be something in you representing it. Transformation implies that all this purely material arrangement is replaced by an arrangement of concentrations of force having certain types of different vibrations, substituting each organ by a center of conscious energy, moved by a conscious will and directed by a movement coming from above, from higher regions. So now we are getting into this, that it is no more the question of physical blood, of a physical spine, of a bone. It is the vibrations themselves will take over the functioning of the human body. So these vibrations, from where do they come? They come from the chakras. It is the chakras which will give this particular, that's why now I understand why each chakra has certain different number of petals. And each chakra has a different bija mantra. Bija mantras are those when you utter, they have a different vibration. So there in ancient times I have already said that each center has a different vibration. So I mean this was discovered thousands of years back. Now what is amazing is that what was discovered thousands of years back is going to be the future of our transformation itself, which we never thought. We thought integral yoga will use new means, new methodology. No. Two things of the ancient times, a mantra, Om Namo Bhagavate Dashvi, that the mother has said, is again an ancient thing. And the other thing is the chakras of the Tantra. So both these are going to be the instruments for the transformation of the supramental body, or the body into the supramental body. So she says, no stomach, no heart any longer, no circulation, no lungs, no, all this disappears. But is replaced by a whole set of vibrations representing what those organs are symbolically. For the organs are only the material symbols of centers of energy. They are not the essential reality. They simply give it a form or a support in certain given circumstances. Just as our eye is an organ, it doesn't see itself. Something else, that's the consciousness sees. And the eye is an organ. So similarly my heart and my lungs and all my other things are only organs representing a consciousness. So now what they say is, the transformed body will then function through its real centers of energy and not any longer through the symbolic representatives such as were developed in the animal body. So now you see what a complex thing. From the animal body we have got the organs. From the human to the superhuman, these organs, what has come from the animal cannot go on. And that is perhaps the raison d'etre of why Sri Aurobindo and the mother had to leave this body, their own body, in spite of all the supramental work and force that has been done in the body. Because what they have inherited is the animal inheritance, the organs and all that. So one cannot do that. That's what the mother was saying in one of the agenda talks. You will see that if only I lived 100 years. Mother was so anxious. For the mother it was a race of time. In fact, she described somewhere that who will come first? Will my body survive? Can I reach an age where I can really change that organ, shift it, stop the heart and punch in that heart center? But then it says it's such a delicate operation, I mean a millionth of a second. You know, the heart moves and the center takes over. If there's any gap of time, the body is dead. So she says it's an extremely risky thing and I have to live longer to be able to match this functioning. So she said, therefore first of all you must know what your heart represents in the cosmic energy and what the circulation represents and what the stomach and the brain represent. To begin with, you must first be conscious of all that. And then you must have at your disposal the original vibrations, that which is symbolized by these organs. And you must slowly gather together all these energies in your body and change each organ into a center of conscious energy which will replace the symbolic movement by the real one. You believe it will take only 300 years to do that? I believe it will take much more time to have a form with qualities which will not be exactly those we know, but will be much superior, a form that one naturally dreams to see plastic. As the expression of your face changes with your feelings, so the body will change, not the form, but within the same form, in accordance with what you want to express with your body. It can become very concentrated, very developed, very luminous, very sane, with a perfect plasticity, with a perfect elasticity and a lightness as one wills. Have you never dreamt of giving a kick to the ground and then soaring into the air, flying away? You move about. You push a little with your shoulders, you go this way, you push again, you go that way. And you go wherever you like, quite easily. And finally when you are finished, you come back, enter your body. Well, you must be able to do that with your body. And also certain things related to respiration. But there will no longer be lungs. There is a true movement behind a symbolic movement which gives you this capacity of lightness. You do not belong any longer to the system of gravitation. You escape it. And so for each organ. Then I'll skip a part that somebody is telling again the question, 300 years with the same body? Well, there's a change, it's no longer the same body. But you see, when our little humanity says 300 years with the same body, you say, why? When I'm 50, it already begins to decompose. So at 300 years it will be a horrible thing. But it is not like that. It is 300 years with the body that goes on perfecting itself from year to year. Perhaps when the 300th year is reached, one will say, oh, I still need 300 or 400 more to be what I want to be. Each year that passes represents a progress, a transformation. One would like to have more and more years in order to be able to transform oneself more and more. When something is not exactly as you want it to be, take for example simply one thing I have just described. Say plasticity or lightness or elasticity or luminosity, and none of them is exactly as you wanted. Then you will wait, then you will still need at least 200 years more so that it may be accomplished. But you never think, oh, how is it? It's still going to last 200 years more? On the contrary, you say, 200 years more are absolutely necessary so that it may be truly done. And then, when all is done, when all is perfect, then there is no longer any question of years, for you are immortal. But in another place, he described what I said. There is the last risk, even in this working of the 200 years or 300 years. He said the crucial point is the moment when the exchange takes place, when the chakra takes over the organ. And especially the heart organ is the most difficult one, because the whole body depends on the heartbeat. Say for the liver, even if there is a delay of 5 seconds, it doesn't matter, liver can afford to suspend the liver functioning for 5 seconds or 5 minutes. But she says, what do I do with the heart? And that is why I still remember when I was a kid, the first thing that I get the bulletin, I would read the notes on the way, because that's the kind of the report of what the mother is doing or what she is achieving. So we are all interested in reading the mother's notes on the way. Agenda came much later, years later. But in the 60s, we were depending wholly on the notes on the way. So there I still remember the anxiety of the mother, that will I live that long? Will I be able to do that little, change over? So since then it got stuck in my mind. The next step, she says, is the change of organs. After that, the skin and the muscles and all that will change. So she's saying, don't think you'll have a supermental body, all beautiful and this and that, wonderful to look at. He said that the external, the outermost will come much later. The first thing is the inner organ, because the body has to continue to function. And once the organs are changed or exchanged with the centers, then those centers will vibrate as we have seen in Savitri, the true vibrations, They will get into the cells and that comes into the skin and that is what changes. So we have a long agenda in front of us. So until then, the girls will still keep saying, I'm 80 kilos, I should be 78 kilos, and then blah blah blah. And then.
But for that, birth must exist.
Exist, that's what she's saying.
The way we're going now, birth might disappear.
Earth might disappear, yes, I hope we continue to exist. Yeah, so that brings us to the end of this Canto 5, Book 7. Next time we'll take up Canto 6, but next time is on August 3rd. I'm going out next week to Hyderabad for some work and function. So I'm going on this 23rd, I'll be back on 31st. So the 27th is our next class, which I'll be missing. I'll be returning on 3rd of August. So remember, next class we don't have, only the 3rd of August we will have. Then we'll take up the new canto. So can we have the concentration now?